Hello, everyone. Welcome to Balance Path, my podcast. I'm Rosanna, and today I have with me Tamara Zoner, who is an award-winning keynote speaker and a happiness trainer. And my goodness, we can all use a little bit of happiness, can't we? So I think you're going to enjoy today's podcast. Welcome, Tamara. Why don't I have you introduce yourself a little bit more than what I said, because what does a happiness trainer mean? So maybe you can tell us.
I'd love to. And thank you for having me, Rosanna. So, what I do essentially is support people in cultivating radiant relationships with themselves, then others, through the tools and habits and practices of happiness, which I'm sure we'll talk about today, so that they can create a life they love now.
Excellent. Sounds amazing, and it sounds so easy, but I don't think it is very easy, is it?
Simple, not necessarily easy. Yeah.
Right. And so can you tell us a little bit about your coaching journey and your core philosophy as to why you believe that healthy relationships with yourself and others is really a crucial, I guess, for creating that fulfilling life that we all would love to have.
Yeah, let me start with that one so I don't forget. I believe that this work is essential and that your own happiness is essential to the world. Because when we are struggling and seeking to fill a hole that we think we have inside of us, then we're not showing up in necessarily healthy ways. And we've all heard this phrase, when hurt people, but whole people help people. And
Mm,
so I just made that up on the fly.
that's amazing. Yeah.
And so when we take care of ourselves in a way that supports our own authentic well-being and happiness, happiness comes from a sense of well-being, a place of well-being, then we're able to show up for others in our lives instead of wanting them to be different than they are, wishing circumstances in our lives would change to support us in our happiness, or
Mhm.
just needing things to change outside of us instead of looking within to make the changes that support us in every aspect of our life. So that's why it's important to me. And I like to say that I believe that we can change this world to that better place we all want it to be, one happier person at a time.
Absolutely, because a lot of the times we always feel or think that something is going to make us happy. When I lose weight, I'm going to be happy. When I buy my huge house, I'm going to be happy. When I get married, I'm going to be happy. So, yeah, we are always looking outside, but how do
Yeah.
we come to the realization that we have to look within first?
Usually it requires some deep discomfort. And we call that in my happiness work the myth of more. If this happens, then I'll be happy, as if we don't already have that within ourselves. And
Mhm.
and to come back around to my own coaching journey, I was living in that myth. I was thinking, well, if my husband changed, then I'd be happy. If we made more money, then he'd be happier, so then I'd be happier. If if I could stop yelling at my kids, then I'd feel better and I'd be happier. Whatever, the if, the thens,
Mhm.
and they're not the truth. So I did get to a place of deep discomfort. I didn't like who I was. I didn't like the parent I was being. I didn't like the woman I was anymore. I had been married at the point that I started my coaching journey. I had been married for nearly 15 years to a high functioning alcoholic
Mhm.
who's emotionally and verbally abusive and very manipulative and controlling. And I kept thinking, he's the one who had to change. And then when that didn't happen, that never happened, it still hasn't happened today.
Mhm.
Then I thought, well, okay, well then I need to change something. And first, I still tried the external. Well, I'll be the perfect Stepford wife and I'll
Yeah.
meet him at the door. He's a French guy. So I meet him at the door with an aperitif and a glass of wine handy, and just and the children will be bathed and quiet. They were babies. That was not ever going to happen. But
Yeah.
if I could get that to happen, then he'd be happy, and then he'd be nicer, and then I'd be happier. And eventually, when nothing external worked, I started doing internal work. And I discovered a process which you are familiar with. It's how we met, called the passion test.
Yes. Yeah.
And I I remember sitting down at a networking event. I was doing something totally different. And I sat down to, you might even know Michelle Simons. I sat down next to her. We exchanged business cards, and hers read certified passion test facilitator. And I got this whole body chill. I'd never heard of it. I didn't know what it meant, but I knew it meant something for me.
Hmm.
And so Michelle and I got together for coffee, and she told me about the passion test. And even before I had ever taken it, I committed to becoming a trainer.
Oh, that's excellent. Yeah, I love it too. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
it's so good. It's still the same tool that I take every single client with
Hmm.
through at
Hmm.
the beginning of our relationship together, every single one. And I still repeat the process for myself every 6 months to a year.
Yeah.
But through it, I was able to really look at my life and notice, finally, tell myself the truth that I was unhappy and that he wasn't going to change. And if I wanted my life to change, I had to do something different.
Hmm.
And so, long story short, I eventually, got my voice back through these tools, through getting into coaching, first for myself and then to help others.
Yeah.
And then I was able to leave the marriage and then start using this with other people in a professional way, because I know the difference it made in my own life.
Hmm.
And I see now, after 10 years of being a passion test facilitator, a life coach, and now a happiness trainer, I see the difference it makes in everyone who touches this process in their life, this
Yeah.
process of clarity that helps us really design the life we want to be living, the life we want to be feeling. And then what I discovered is that we can do that. We can get to our top 5 passions. We can define what we want life to look and feel like. But if we don't believe that we're worth it, we will never create that life. So then I got into, well, how can I help people love themselves more? And I did the Mastery of Self-Love
Oh,
certification.
yeah.
And then I thought, well, okay, this is still a little woo-woo out there. It's not a tangible thing for every person.
Hmm.
And then I got into the happiness training, which I love so much because it's science research based. It's not airy fairy in the slightest. It's very concrete information
Oh,
about,
interesting. Yeah.
yeah, the tools and habits of happiness and how the brain works and what we can do differently to repattern the mind from a very negative mindset to a more authentically positive mindset. So
Mm.
that's my journey. And now this is what I do full time. And as you can tell, I get a little fired up about it.
Yeah. And I always consider every time I look at you or I look at your Instagram post, it always brings a smile to myself because you are, I call you the happy lady. And because that's what you exude and that's what it's contagious, right? But I know that there's more work that's involved in getting to that point. And
Yeah.
so what were some of the challenges? I mean, the tools are great, like you mentioned, the passion test, because it does give you that clarity. And I think
Mhm.
that's the first thing is having the clarity because
Yes.
sometimes we don't even know what we want.
Right.
So that could be a challenge. So what are some of the other challenges that, you've come across?
Yeah. Life is challenging, right? Time. A lot of people say, well, I don't have time to do this. Well, when I started this journey, I had 3 children under the age of 8. So time was a thing. As I continue this journey, I have 3 teenagers.
It
Right?
doesn't get better, does it?
No, that's why the external isn't what matters.
Yeah.
So the more we know, the more we understand, okay, what really makes up our happiness or well-being? Well, it doesn't depend on circumstances. I can tell you that.
Hmm.
It matters that we do practice. We won't have time, Rosanna. We have to
Yeah.
make time
Make
and
it.
take time.
Yes. Yeah.
And I like to make it so accessible that people can't tell me they don't have time. I will tell people to meditate while they pee.
Yeah.
30,
Why
45
not?
seconds is all you got. Then take 5 deep breaths while you are urinating.
Yeah.
And that's enough for today or for the
Right.
beginning part of your day or for a break or, take, especially if you have really limited time, if you are a parent or you're a parent and you're working full time or you're working 80 hours a week at a job or your own business or whatever, build in the time, schedule it in, and make it accessible because tools only work if we work them.
Hmm.
So whether it's you driving, I have one client at stoplights. She will practice Ho'oponopono. I don't know if you're
Oh,
familiar
cool.
with that one.
Yes. Yeah, of course.
Yes.
Yeah.
So she will practice that at every stoplight. That's her practice. And that helps her incredibly.
That's amazing.
I used to tap while I was driving to get my kids, right?
Yeah.
I'd be on the way
Yeah.
to school and I one hand on the wheel and one hand tapping
Yeah.
and whatever it took. And I'd be like, oh, I'm going to be a relaxed present mom.
Yeah.
I already feel stressed from a day, whatever it is. So
Yeah.
we can take all these tools and practices and say we don't have time for them, but that's just resistance. And that's just us not wanting to because the subconscious mind is like,
Yeah.
hey,
It's a
girl, everything's
mindset. It's the
fine.
mindset that, oh my gosh, I
Yeah.
don't have time for this. Yeah.
Yes. We'll never have time,
You
but we
won't.
can always make time.
Yeah. And we schedule our meetings in our calendar, like either,
Yeah.
hard copy or electronic, whatever it is.
Or both, like me.
But, why don't we schedule time to meditate or schedule time to exercise or
Yes.
schedule time for us?
Yeah.
But I love what, you do things whenever you get a minute. So I do this exercise for with a yoga block, and I have to lie down for 10 minutes. And while I'm lying down, I meditate. I used to
Yeah.
just kind of, think, and I thought, okay, I'm wasting this time that I could be, using to meditate or to,
Right.
say affirmations or whatever. But do you have a quick minute to show our audience the Hoponopono? I don't even know how to say it.
Take a minute to teach people how to say it. Ho'oponopono.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. So I love this one. And there are different variations that you can use. But in general, it is simply 4 phrases said in any order, but I'll say it in a specific order
Mhm.
over and over and over. And it's, I'm sorry. Please forgive me. Thank you. I love you.
I get goosebumps every time. Yeah.
This is one of the first ones I practiced too. And the way that I learned it was to kind of imagine like a whiteboard or chalkboard, depending on how old you are, in
Mhm.
your mind. And as we're saying those words, we're erasing the board. We're erasing the patterns that sabotage us. We're erasing the trauma of our lives. We're erasing the chronic negative thinking. We're just erasing to come back to this place of peace.
Mhm.
Second, it doesn't matter who you're directing those words to. If you're directing it at source, God, the universe, yada, yada, whatever,
Yeah.
doesn't matter. That's fine. And you could also be directing it to yourself.
Mhm.
And you could also be directing it toward a situation or a person that you're harboring some resentment
Love
or
it.
angst toward, right?
Love it.
So
Yeah.
doesn't matter. Bonus points if you want to slow down your breath and maybe, I'm sorry, breath.
Hmm.
Please forgive me. Thank you. I love you. Bonus points number 2, maybe a mudra. I like to use the Thunderbolt mudra.
Yes.
That's this one.
Yes.
Hands on
I
the
love that
heart.
one. Yeah.
Yeah, which is said to stimulate courage during challenging times.
Mm.
So I'm sorry. Please forgive me. Thank you. I love you. Eyes closed, eyes open. I like to learn this one so well that it becomes like a script running in the back of my head. Just like
Right.
our computers have scripts running all the time, we don't even know they're there.
Yeah.
When we practice this one so frequently that it just becomes a program running in the back of our head, then it's constantly cleaning us up, constantly clearing our energy, constantly just making way for more joy,
Yeah.
making way for more peace, making way for more love. So that's one of my favorites and
Love
one of
it.
the
Yeah.
easiest.
Yeah.
And then I too, if you have more time, when I'm
Mhm.
working with clients one on one, especially, we will do this one, but we'll add on phrases like, a lot of people don't love themselves a whole lot, Rosanna,
I know. Yeah.
right? It's really heartbreaking. And so I will invite people to say something like, I'm sorry that I didn't give myself the love that I deserve today. Please forgive me for treating myself like that. Thank you for showing me that I'm worth my own love and care. I love you. Enough said.
Just beautiful. Yeah. And
Yeah.
so empowering. And I think a lot of the times maybe we didn't grow up um, knowing how to love ourselves or knowing that we even should love ourselves and that we can love ourselves. Where,
Right.
some of our cultural upbringing is, you have to take care of everybody else and
Yes.
you're put on the back burner. And I think that was the hardest thing for me to realize that, oh my gosh, I am gonna do something for me instead of everybody else. And
Yeah.
I'm happier in a way that I'm not as resentful when I do things for everybody else because there comes
Yes.
a point where it's like, okay, well, you know what? What about me? I have needs too, right?
That's it. And that's the reason why self-care is so important and
Mhm.
why our relationship with ourselves is so important. Because we'll just use that old cup demonstration, right?
Yes.
This cup, you can see the water, it's right there.
Yeah.
My cup is full, but if I keep pouring it out to others, pouring it out to others, pouring it out to others, then when I need to take a drink, there's nothing left for me. And then I'm bitter, resentful, angry, upset. And then when someone asks me for some more water, I'm like, sure, let me go get you some water. Okay. I don't want you to
Right.
drink, but I'll give you water because that's what church taught me. That's what society taught me. That's what my mom taught me.
You're
I'll
right.
get you the
Yeah. And you're
You want
so
a different story?
unhappy.
You're so mad, but you do it anyway. But that kind of energy is not, I don't want your help if
Mhm.
that's the kind of energy you're coming at it. However, if we keep our water so full that there's always more for us to drink, and in fact, it's overflowing, and
Mhm.
we serve from the overflow. Lisa Nichols calls it serve from the saucer.
Right.
And I say serve from the overflow. Then we feel good about serving others.
Mhm.
We are so full that our yeses
Yeah.
are real yeses, not martyrdom.
Right.
And 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 if we've gotten to this point that we're filling our cups full, we also have likely developed healthy, loving boundaries where we can
Absolutely.
say, thanks for asking, Rosanna,
Yeah.
and I have another commitment, period.
Right.
That's a practice too, but it works
Absolutely.
so beautifully.
Yeah. Yeah. And it takes, I mean, it's challenging to get there, but
Yep.
like you said, if when you're using all these tools, you're making that time, you will get there. Because
Yeah.
it can be overwhelming for someone to say, oh my gosh, where do I even begin?
Right. I started all of these practices when my youngest was 3 years old and in his super Spider-Man phase, right? And he was an early riser. I couldn't get up earlier than he could. I'd have to never go to bed. So he'd wake up at like 5:30 or 6 in the morning consistently.
Mhm.
So here's what I decided, and parents, listen up. What I know is that parenting is show, not tell. And that's for any relationship, really. We're showing and teaching people how to treat us.
Love it. Yeah.
Parenting specifically is show, not tell. Our kids are learning what we do, not what we say. So I developed this phrase: little baby, you can wait, watch, or join. You can wait. You got coloring books, you've got toys.
Yeah.
You can watch. You're curious, you can watch me because you're
Yeah.
not turning on the TV, probably. Or you can join me. I was doing yoga every morning at that point. You can join me. And sometimes he'd jump on my back when I was in plank and
Mhm.
he'd help me grow stronger.
Yeah.
But that was a phrase that I developed because what I taught them and learned as I taught them was that me taking care of myself made me a better parent. It
Mhm.
helped me be calmer and more present with my kids. And it helps me today still be a better parent to three teenagers,
Mhm.
to be a better partner, to be a better friend, to be a better daughter. If my mom needs me, I've got to take care of me so that I can then be present for her.
Absolutely. Love it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Love it. So what happens when, and you mentioned that when you are happier and have all the self-love, your relationships are better. Now, what if, you have a relationship with somebody who isn't quite there and presses all of your buttons? How do you how do you handle that?
Depends on the particular relationship, first of all. If it's like somebody you see at work, we can manage that. We
That's
can
right.
avoid them a little bit, whatever. If it's someone in our direct life, if it's our partner, in fact, we get to take a really hard look at what we're tolerating, how we're teaching them to treat us, and what kind of boundaries we now need to set for ourselves and others. And
Hmm.
a lot of people will say to me, well, Tamara, it feels mean. It feels mean to set a boundary. But boundaries keep us safe, right? We
Yeah.
get locked in on a roller coaster. That's a boundary that keeps us safe.
Hmm.
We set rules for our children or in a workplace for safety. These are boundaries that keep us safe. We know what to expect, and everybody really likes that, right?
Hmm.
So when we have someone in our life who is really challenging, we've got to practice setting healthy boundaries. And you might be familiar with this phrase, but I like to keep in mind, I love you and I love me.
Hmm.
So I hear you, I see you, and I'm going to take care of myself too. And sometimes, frankly, like I did, we have to leave that relationship.
Right. Yeah.
And sometimes, like I've also done in my current relationship, we can say, hey, I'm not feeling valued.
Hmm.
And here's what I need. Are you willing to meet me there? And then they have a choice too,
Right. Yeah. Yeah,
right?
absolutely. It's being your authentic self and knowing what you need and communicating it to somebody else. And yeah,
Yeah.
and you're right. If I mean, I'm thinking about, even family members or friends who
Mm.
are close with, and then all of a sudden something happens. I like that open communication, that
Yeah.
honesty. And then, like you said, sometimes, you can't change people, but you
Right.
can change how you react. And
Yeah.
so, yeah, then at that point, then you make the decision, right? Or that, yeah,
Yeah, and relationships are like our greatest teachers, but we're so afraid of what someone else is thinking about us or feeling about us. And so I say, be willing to ask the questions you're scared to know the answers to. And
yeah,
when you come towards someone from a vulnerable place, they're more likely to respond with a vulnerable, loving place as well.
yeah,
Like, okay, if you don't hear from your friend for 3 months and you're raging about it, you're like, why don't they ever call me? Well, honey, why didn't you call them?
right, yeah.
Always do. Well, then have that conversation. I really miss you, and I feel like I'm always the one that has to reach out. I'm wondering if we could have a little more equilibrium in our relationship. Would you be
Mhm.
willing to get together with me and talk about that?
Yeah. Because we
Right?
don't know what other people are going through.
We never know
We
what
never
other people
know.
are going through.
Exactly. Yeah.
We
Yeah.
never know. And we're all going through something at any given time. So don't assume that you know that they don't like you or that you did
Right.
something wrong or
Yeah.
that they don't want to hear from you or that they're just too busy for you. Maybe they are in a dark, deep, lonely place and they're desperate for someone to reach out to them.
Right. Yeah.
We never
We
know.
never know. Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
just do it and do it
Yeah.
lovingly.
And so I love that because you're right. I think we read a lot into relationships and a lot into what other people think. And then it kind of just snowballs. And that's our inner critic. And it's
Yes.
talking to us and it's giving us all these stories and making
Oh,
these
so many
stories
stories.
up. Yeah. And so that's part of the self-love is just stopping and reevaluating and just
Yeah.
finding out, well, talking to yourself, right? And
Yeah.
saying, is it true? Is it not? How can it be true? I
Right.
guess validating that. Yeah.
I love it. That's one of the first tenets of the mind. Don't believe everything you think. And
Right.
don't try to be a mind reader because it is very unlikely that you are a psychic mind reader.
Right.
So don't like be reading the mind. I used to think, oh, my husband must be really mad because he slammed the door. It could be the wind touching it.
Right.
But I made
Exactly.
up a story in my mind based on, past experiences.
Yeah.
Instead, I could just have asked, "Ooh, is everything okay? I heard the door slam."
Hmm.
Oh
Hmm.
yeah, the wind caught it. Or yeah, I'm pissed off. Or what, then you
Right.
have the truth. Then you know the answer. And now you know what you're dealing with instead of wondering and cowering.
That's right. Yeah. And
Yeah,
blaming yourself. Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah. So, what are some of the long-term effects or benefits?
There's so many benefits. In fact, speaking of aging, happier people live on average 9 years longer than unhappy people, and they live healthier, longer lives, and they sleep better. And so these are some of the, they also make more money over the course of their lifetime, like $1 million more on average over the course of their
Wow.
lifetime. But
Yeah.
let's go back to what I mean by happiness, because if I
Mhm.
ask you or you ask every single YouTube subscriber or listener what happiness means to you, we'll come up with a billion different responses. So
Absolutely. Yeah.
the working definition of happiness that I use comes from Marcy Shimoff's Happy for No Reason book. And it's an inner state of peace and well being that doesn't depend on circumstances. We already talked about that
Okay.
circumstance part.
Yes. Yeah.
I like to call this also authentic happiness. This is the true happiness. It's an inner state of peace and well being. It
Hmm.
doesn't matter what the weather is like or if I'm alone or with friends. I have this inner state of peace and well being that I can draw upon whenever I need it. And I build that well through these practices and tools of happiness.
Hmm.
So the benefits are that longer, healthier, well-rested life with some
Yeah.
more money. And also brain function is higher in happier people. We will age more gratefully and gracefully when we take better care of ourselves. We've got to take care of the body. And if we don't have self-love, we won't bother.
Hmm. Hmm.
There's a lot of I won't why bother when we
Right.
don't have a good relationship with ourselves. There a lot of I know why I'm doing this when we do care about ourselves. I know for me that when I get up and do yoga in the morning or at any point in the day, if morning doesn't work that
Yeah.
day,
Yeah.
I feel better.
Yes.
I feel more grounded. I make healthier food choices as a result. I sleep better as a result of more movement in my life. It all works together. So
Hmm.
there are seven main habits of happiness, but they all play off of each other. And really, if I had to choose three for the short conversation we're having,
Hmm.
one would be knowing how your mind works. So we know that there's that inner critic. We know that's the subconscious mind just trying to protect us.
Right.
And there are ways to override it and get it on board with us. And that's something I talk about a lot. I teach every client, and I teach it even in free master classes or in my meetups and whatnot
Okay.
around the Detroit area, if you happen to be local to me. Number two, I would talk about, oh gosh, that's really tricky. I was going to say the body. I already talked about it though. So I'll throw in owning your own happiness, taking responsibility for your happiness is
That's
really the
huge.
foundation. And that's that eliminating that myth of more that if this changed, then I would be, or if they changed, then I'd be. No, it's I take responsibility for my happiness. My husband wasn't responsible for my happiness, but I
Hmm.
gave him that responsibility for a long time. He was not so good at it, and I was disempowered because of it. But when
Right.
I took it back, then I could make the changes in my life that supported me. And now I'm the happy lady that, and it's a daily, lifelong practice. And then finally, what the longest research on happiness that's ever been done by Harvard, it's like spans over 80 years,
Mhm.
social fitness. So learning how to create those loving boundaries with people in our lives and
Mhm.
spending more time with the people who lift us up instead of bring us down
Right.
is really vital to our social fitness. Knowing that there's somebody in our lives that we can call on when we need it is so vital to our well-being. That's why first relationship with self,
Yes.
then relationship with others, because our relationship with others is so much better when we already have a good one with ourselves.
Hmm. And those relationships, I mean, you just have to go out in the community because some people are alone. There are a lot of, elderly people, even young people or younger
Yep.
people who are alone. There are so many community groups out there that one can
So
tap
many
into.
community. You can find any group. Like meetup.com is a great resource for people. I have my own meetups on there.
Hmm.
And it's what I've used to find like-hearted, like-minded people that I
Right.
want to time with who like to do the same things. I like to have really deep conversations. Not everybody does.
Yeah.
So even my family, right? They don't all love to have a deep conversation. So I've got to have people in my life who love what I love so that I feel filled up and I thrive. And I get to go out and find them. We
Yeah.
can't just wait for people to come to us.
Exactly.
We've got to take the risks to
Yeah.
put ourselves out there to find people who we can connect with, and then we reap the rewards of that. Yesterday I
Yeah.
spoke at a senior community center, and I got to watch two people make a new friendship.
Oh,
They just
that's so
happened to sit next to
great.
each other.
Yeah.
And, as we went through the hour talk, and all my talks are a little workshoppy,
Mhm.
they bonded. And at the end, they sat and talked for another 15 minutes after the talk ended and exchanged phone. They made friends.
That's
So we
wonderful. Yeah.
get out there and connect because people want to connect with you.
I think that's its hardest thing though, is like you said, you have to realize that, you can do this. And then it's that mindset. It's that getting out of your comfort zone
Yeah.
to do that.
It's scary, and we have to do it anyway. You have the courage muscle within you. You have to exercise it.
Hmm.
And the choice is not to, and be lonely and alone,
Hmm.
or stretch and connect
Yeah.
and feel happier.
Yeah.
If you can just reach out to one person, and I don't even care if it's a crisis hotline, if it's your neighbor, if
Hmm.
it's your dog who
I
busts in
saw
while I'm
her.
doing
I saw
podcasts,
your screen moving.
little tail. She wants connection right now, and she's
Yeah.
like, I'm going to do the uncomfortable thing and
Yeah.
go get
Yeah,
some.
he's got,
She was just
yeah.
like, here's what you do, folks. You just break through your
You just
own
do.
barriers
Yeah.
to connect. And that's why I love Meetup as a resource, community centers as a resource. I don't know how old your group is, but you're talking about aging. Senior communities are not a scary place. They're fabulous,
Yeah.
fabulous places to connect. And if you are alone or lonely and you've been considering maybe this is a move for me, I say it is,
Hmm.
because you're immersed in a social setting. And when we're aging isolated, we decline much faster
Yes.
than
Yeah.
if we're aging in community. And so whatever community you can join, be a part of, if it's a bingo group, a mahjong group, a church group, a
Hmm.
coffee group,
Hmm.
just show up for yourself.
Yeah.
Take a risk, get uncomfortable. It's okay.
It's that self-awareness, right? That one needs. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love it. So do you have any stories that you can share with us in terms of some of your clients or some of the case studies that show how important happiness is? And we
Oh
talked a lot
gosh.
about it already,
Yeah.
but I don't know if any would come to mind or
About 100 off the top of my head. First, I can share. So I have one client who came to me, and so I give everyone a happiness assessment at the start of our time together.
Mhm.
She came to me, and she had reached that point of being so miserable that she couldn't take it anymore. And she didn't know how to change it. She'd been to therapy. She didn't know what else to do, but she saw my posts and
Mhm.
she saw my smile, and she said, I think maybe I just want to know if it's even possible for you to help me.
Right.
So her happiness assessment out of 100 points was 37.
Wow.
She had suicidal ideation. She struggled in her relationship. She's been married for decades. She struggled with her relationship with her mother still.
Mm.
She was still blaming events of the past on why she couldn't be happy. And so, slowly, gently, but surely, we introduced, first of all, the passion test. Like, what would you want if you could have anything?
Yeah.
What would you have? And so she defined that life. Just, she wasn't out shooting for galaxies. It was
Mhm.
just a few steps better than what she had. But
Yeah.
she wanted to like who she saw in the mirror. She wanted to improve her relationship with her husband, and she wanted to stop ruminating so much. And so she wanted a clearer mind and a
Mhm.
calmer mind. And so we worked on those specific skills. Now, my one-on-one programs are 6 months with renewable options. She renewed twice. So we worked together
Wow.
one-on-one 18 months.
Yeah.
Her last happiness assessment was 87 points.
Oh, wow. That's amazing.
Her relationship with her husband is dramatically better than
Mhm.
it was. They're enjoying each other again. They have an adult son who moved home, so they've dealt with a lot of challenges from him, but she's learned how to communicate her own needs and not be a martyr. And
Mhm.
that feels, you should see her smile when she talks
Wow.
about it. She just
That's
glows.
amazing.
She's repaired her stories about her traumatic event and her relationship with her mother so that her mom's not the running script in her head anymore, telling
Right.
her she's not good enough. Her own voice is stronger, telling her she can do it, telling her that she can try and that she's worth it. So her whole life has changed, and her demeanor went from like a really kind of sad, dull affect to glowing
Wow.
and loving her life. And loving your life and being happy doesn't mean there won't be hard parts.
Right. And she had a lot of challenges. You
She
can,
has
yeah.
challenges
Yeah.
and she's still happy. And Rosanna, I am a mother of three teenagers, one who deals with a severe anxiety disorder and
Mhm.
depression, one who is a transgender man. Now
Mhm.
he's turning 18 on Monday,
Uh-huh.
and one who's just easygoing. And I got lucky, like easy. God was like, yeah, here's your easy one. Here you go. You don't have to grow and learn and stretch with this one. So has there been some stress in my life? Hell
Absolutely.
yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, and I use these tools every day to take great care of myself so that I can show up as a supportive person in their lives and not repeat patterns of parenting from generations prior.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
And so that just goes to show, that it doesn't matter what happens around us. Your
Right. You can
happiness does
handle
come
it.
within. Yeah. I
Yeah, you
mean,
can handle it when you practice these
yeah.
tools and you
Yeah.
you build up your own emotional resilience. A client who came to me and he was quick. He was just 6 months and then good to go. But he was struggling with, he was a father, he is a father of two adolescent kids. Now they're probably teens because this was a couple of years ago now. And he was the full-time dad, divorced,
Hmm.
and he was really struggling with enjoying his kids and his parenting. He wanted to be a dad. He wanted to be there for them. And he felt just like buried by responsibility. And so what he wanted was to feel more joy in his life. So we really worked on him building back in the things that lit him up. And over those 6 months, he started having more fun with his kids. He started getting out of his comfort zone because that was one of the practices. Like, how do I get out of my comfort zone, Tamara? I said, well, not everybody needs to go skydiving for this or
Right.
travel
Yeah.
across the world. How about you brush your teeth with your non-dominant hand for a few days and see how that feels? How about you, and if you're aging gracefully, maybe this one isn't for you. How about you walk backwards through your living room or take a different route to the place, to the grocery store or to the work,
Mhm.
or like really small, subtle changes open up big new neural pathways in the brain that make discomfort less discomfort.
And so those things brought joy to him, like, or what?
Yes, over time, because it shifted his thinking. And of course, we worked on his thinking
Hmm.
of what was expected of him and gave him permission to give himself permission to
Hmm.
do more things he enjoyed. So he started playing guitar again. When the
Right.
kids were at mom's for the weekend, he would go out and meet friends again. Whereas before he thought, well, I just have to catch up on work or housework or blah, blah, blah. No, you get to go out and have some fun.
Yeah.
Because when we're lit up, we light up others. And so then he started having fun with his kids again. And what was really cool was not only that his kids were enjoying him more, he was enjoying them more. They were having more fun as a family.
Right.
But that joy carried over to mom's house. And she noticed a difference in the kids
Hmm.
as well. And they made an impact on her happiness too. So it's like I say, one happier person at a time can
Yeah.
change this world.
What
And
a domino
it,
effect.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
so magical.
So is there anything else that you'd like to add, or do you want to give us three key takeaways maybe that we can maybe do, like you said, baby steps. You
Yeah.
already
It,
mentioned so many things, but let's
right,
do your
right.
top
Because
three.
Oh my gosh, there's so many tools. So my first tool would be like that 1 minute breath break.
Hmm.
Just a 1 minute breath break, maybe a couple of times a day, especially during transition times,
Yeah.
of just closing your eyes if you can. But if you have to be doing this while you're driving, that's okay too. And just taking a deeper breath and noticing anywhere in your body you're holding tension and consciously release it. That's one. If you have just 1 minute, do that. If you have a little more time, you might spend 5 minutes doing what's called a quick coherence technique. And if you find me on YouTube, I have that and you can just search it up. And I take you through this more specific breathing exercise of
Okay.
deeper, slower breaths, and then envisioning the breath moving in and out of the heart, and then consciously cultivating feelings of love, appreciation, and gratitude. And that's super powerful. Builds the immune system, improves cognitive function, and puts the heart rate into a coherent rhythm, reducing the stress hormone in your body too. Great.
Excellent.
Third thing I'd say to do, and this one can happen anytime, all the time, is to just bring more awareness to the quality of your thoughts. We have around 60,000 thoughts a day on average. So we have a lot of thoughts.
Hmm.
95% of them are repeated day after day, 80% of them are negative. So for the average person, so if you want to be above average, then start paying attention to how you're thinking and speaking to yourself. And simply for a week, just catch yourself. Just notice yourself thinking. Just notice. You're not wrong for
Hmm.
having negative thoughts. You're not bad. You'll not never be able to change.
Yeah.
Just notice. And it starts with that awareness key. And then you might start to interrupt those patterns. And I do teach this process on frequent master classes. I run 2 to 3 free master classes a year.
Okay.
And but I also offer a free 30-minute pathway to happiness called Rosanna that anybody can book. Anybody who has not worked with me before can book 30 minutes one-on-one with me. No obligation, no pressure.
Fantastic.
I won't even ask you if you want to take it further unless I feel like you're really ready to do the work,
Hmm.
because I don't want that person who's happy in their misery. I want that person who's like, I'm sick of being miserable and I'm ready to be happy, at
Right.
least content. I like that. I'd like to feel better.
Yeah. Yeah. And
That's
that's
who I
and
want to work with.
exactly. And yeah, if people aren't ready, you can't force anything on anybody. Yeah.
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 It has to come within.
It definitely does. And you can find me on Facebook and Instagram, and I love to show up and just play there. So, yes, the more time you spend with me, the better you'll feel.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So I am going to have all that information down below. Um, I want to thank you again for spending the time with us today and talking about happiness. And I feel happier too already. So thank you so much for showing us why it's so important, how we can achieve it, and it's why it's so crucial for in our lives, just to having that fulfilling life. Thank you so much.
Thank
To
you.
the audience, thank you for joining us. Please like, subscribe, and share this video, and come back for more content like this on the Balanced Path. Tamara, again, have a great day. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you. Thank
Bye.
you.
Bye.